Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rhonda, and I'm relatively a new citizen to Glenwood compared to most folks that I've met in the community. I've only been living here a couple of years. I have been attending Glenwood City Council meetings on a regular basis, and I have been providing audios that I've recorded of the meetings. And my purpose for providing these recordings is that, number one, I believe in total transparency of government to help build trust between citizens and our elected leaders. Number two, citizens really want to know what's going on in their community, but many may not be able to attend the meetings. And there are quite a few reasons why they might not be able to attend meetings. It might be that they can't drive, they're homebound. It could be that they're commuting home from work at 6 o'clock and they just can't make it home in time to get ready, get the kids dinner, and get to a meeting. The fact remains is that they're still interested in what's going on in the community. So providing the audio recordings really provides a mechanism to where they can be involved, they can ask questions. So those are my reasons for recording, strictly that. The current matter at hand for the administration, and ultimately it's a matter that you are going to have to decide as a voter, as a citizen of this community, is our 1.5-cent sales and use tax. These items will possibly be placed on a ballot and be presented to the voters. Okay, so I'm going to give a reminder. I have no skin in this game. I only know a few people in Glenwood. I'm simply explaining the matter as I see it and from a completely unbiased point of view. So I do have notes, I will tell you, and these are the notes that are circulating on Facebook. But I figured I'd jump on here and do a quick video. Again, I have no skin in the game. I just think that people should be informed. The voters, citizens should be informed. I want to break the matter down to you like you and I are just having like a normal conversation using household terms that you can relate to. So first of all, when I use the word bond, what this really is, it's a loan. It's a loan. And documents that you might read from the past or read in prior ordinances that were passed, they might refer to it as debt service. So debt service, bond, it's a loan. It's a loan that has to be paid off. And it's a priority. It has to be paid off. There are currently 2 bonds that we're trying to pay for, and both were approved by voters. This isn't anything new. It was approved in 2004 and 2006. Those were 2 bonds. So currently there's a 1.5-cent sales and use tax in Glenwood, and I'm going to break it down for you right now as far as where it's currently used or allocated. And again, this was voted on. 0.5 cent of the 1.5 cent goes straight to pay back the 2006 sewer bond. Now remember, that's a loan that has to be paid off. We can't change that. This leaves 1 cent remaining. So you had 1.5. 0.5 cent is going to pay the 2006 bond or loan off. Of the remaining 1 cent, 25% of the 1 cent goes to pay back the 2004 bond or loan. And this was a water bond. This leaves us with 75% of a cent remaining. Of the 75%, 50% goes to maintain and construct betterments and improvements to streets of the city, and then the other 25% goes to operate and maintain the water and sewer system of the city, because it has to be maintained. You have to keep those things up. This has been in place for a very long time, and because the tax structure, where to use the money, is placed to the citizens to vote, well, it's simply time to bring it back to the voters for an update. The needs of the city basically changes over time, and those allocations need to reflect that. So here's an example. Way back when tax allocations were voted in by the citizens of Glenwood, the city wasn't receiving sales tax guaranteed from internet sales. So way back when all of these allotments were made, the city wasn't getting any kind of internet tax. And here we are today, and I'm going to tell you, wow, just wow. I know how much I buy from Amazon and Walmart and eBay, so I know that there's got to be a substantial amount of tax generated from that. Okay? So even though the city's getting this money, so more tax dollars are coming in, it still must be divided up as was voted on years ago. And you know what this does? It leaves some departments, like the police department and the fire department, being held to tight budgets when needs change while other departments have extra money. So you got all this extra money coming in, but the allocations are from way back then. So you've got some departments that are struggling and some that are not. So normally you and I would just say, hey, let's just transfer some money over. You know, like when you're a little bit low on your checking account, you just transfer it from your savings over to your checking account. No big deal. One account to the other, right? Well, unfortunately, in government, it just doesn't work like that. Money can't just be moved around. You can't just go online and do a transfer of funds. By law, we, the citizens, us, determine the allocation of where these funds go. And any changes must be presented to us. And that's a good thing, because that's where you and I both get involved. We all get involved in this. Okay, so remember we talked about the 2004 and the 2006 bonds, or loans. Let's just call them what they are. We talked about that earlier. Well, in order to go forward, we have to pay those loans off. Play like you're refinancing your house. If you refinance your house, you have to pay the old loan back, right? You have to pay it back in order to go forward. So you're going to pay your old house off, go to a new finance company, get a new loan. You still have a note. Still have to have a note, but it could be on much better terms. So the ballot has to include, or proposed ballot has to include, paying off those loans, because you can't go forward unless you pay those loans off. Okay? So it has to be two separate items on a ballot. Okay? So it's got to be, do we want to pay off 2004? Do we want to pay off the 2006? If it's yes and yes, then they're going to have several other questions of, okay, do you want to take a new loan out or bond? Okay? And then where do you want to allot it to? Where do you want it to go to? How do you want to divvy it up? Okay? So if you say, yes, we're going to pay them off, we've got to have another loan to pay it. Now, what's proposed is not for any additional taxes. From what I understand and from what I'm told, there's no additional taxes. It's simply a reallocation. It's paying off, restructuring the loans, and actually allocating where we want our tax dollars to go. And that's what's really important. Okay? So the ballot's got to include paying off those 2 bond notes. And yes, we have to pay it off. Has to be 2 separate questions because they were voted in on 2 separate times, 2004, 2006. So the legal term for paying off one of these loans is called refunding the loans. And they speak their own language, but that's what they call it, refunding their loans. But they really mean paying it off and going forward. Okay? So we have to take it, they have to take it to the citizens, we have to vote on it. And there has to be a way to pay those new bonds off. Nothing's free. So we get a new bond to pay the old bonds off, the 2004 and 2016, because they're still due. And then those bonds don't go away. They're still due no matter what. You can't belly up on a loan. You have to pay those off. So restructuring the bonds would allow Glenwood citizens to be in control over where their 1.5 cent sales tax is being allotted. And that's what's really important here. It's up to us, the voters, the citizens of Glenwood, to let our administration, our elected leaders know where we want the money spent. It's up to you. Now, what's proposed is public safety, 0.25%, utilities, maintenance, and operations, 0.25%, and bond repayment and city general, 1%. And this still nets out to you 1.5%. There's no increase. There's no increase. It just better allows the funds to go where we want them to go. There's no change. Right now, nothing guarantees that public safety has dedicated tax money that would give the citizens of Glenwood the reassurance that this money will be and has to be used for public safety. Folks, this is a big deal. Right now, there's no funds that are strictly dedicated to public safety, which is your PD and your fire department. And why would services that are so critical be shifted aside? And those are my words, shifted aside, because real tax dollars aren't assigned or dedicated to them. So right now, it's just, they get the budget, they approve it. If it's not in the budget, it's not going to be done. And this way, it solidifies that money has to go where we want it to go. So right now, based on the information that I've reviewed up to this point, if I were to go to the polls today, if I would have to go and cast a vote, it would be yes to refund or pay off the 2004 bond, yes to refund the 2006 bond or repay it, and yes to levy the new tax of 1.5%. And it would be broken down where you would want those monies or funds to be allocated. Now, by law, it may have to be broken down as shown, on the ballot. It'd have to be broken down of where you want it allotted. And that's going to be a lot of legal language that's better explained by someone who is a professional. It is going to be called a new tax because this is not a tax that's being renewed, re-upped, whatever you want to call it. It's taking the place of. So I think there's a misconception of, there's going to be a new tax. There's going to be a new tax. That's not it. That's not it, guys. It's paying off one, restructuring new, and us, the voters, voting on where we want the money to go. So if you vote yes to refund, pay off the bonds, then yes should be voted to levy the new tax. Since no matter how you slice it, we got to pay those bonds back, and we got to maintain a city. So again, I'm not sure how the legal wording would actually be on a ballot, and it'd probably end up being several questions. I'd like to see it outlined as to what percentages are going to go where. Okay. Again, this proposal is not to increase taxes. Glenwood would still have the same 1.5 cent sales and use tax. And in closing, I really want to urge you to attend the upcoming public forums. The next one is tomorrow night, Tuesday, March 28th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. You'll have Jason Halsclaw with Stevens and Miss Sarah Giamo with Friday Law Firm. And they will be there to answer any questions that you might have so that we as a public can make good, informed decisions. And I'm going to leave it with this note. Knowledge is power. If you know what you're voting for and you understand it, then you can really be proud of your decisions and make good decisions. So I really hope to see you there at the public meeting tomorrow night. I'll be there. I will record it and I'll put it on YouTube, but nothing takes the place of the public physically being present and bring questions. Bring questions. You know, I'll do my best to get the recording up as soon as I can. And I appreciate you listening to this video. And have a good rest of the day, and I'll be in touch. Peace.